Hello and welcome back to another news dump. Ricky's in Portland. Couldn't stay together for too long, but let's get into the news because earlier this week, Disney dropped their first teaser for the latest live-action movie adaptation of one of their classic animated films, Beauty and the Beast. And while it doesn't really show any of the actual movie, just some shots of the Beast Castle with some brief dialogue, audio, and a very brief shot of half of Emma Watson's face looking at a rose, it managed to get more views in its first 24 hours than any movie trailer ever, with 91.8 million views just in that first day, topping the previous record holder, the second teaser for Star Wars The Force Awakens, also a Disney property. The obvious logical conclusion to be made is that despite the fact that Star Wars was seemingly the single most beloved fictional universe of all time, Disney's 1991 Oscar Best Picture nominated animated classic Beauty and the Beast is where the money's at. And I know only this past Monday I was ranting about Disney's current live-action remake strategy being a bit lazy, but even I can't argue with those numbers. Go ahead, Disney. So it's no surprise that Deadline reported earlier this week that Disney is now looking into making a live-action version of their 1989 animated film, The Little Mermaid, which was notable for putting Disney animation back on the map and paving the way for Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, The Lion King, Pocahontas, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, and Hercules. Disney animation was killing it in the 90s, and The Little Mermaid was what kicked all that off. Now, considering the YouTube numbers from that Beauty and the Beast teaser and the box office numbers from The Jungle Book, it's only natural that Disney would set their sights on something like The Little Mermaid next. There's just one small problem though, because Disney doesn't exclusively own the rights to The Little Mermaid because they didn't come up with the idea. As with most of their classic animated properties, it's based on a classic story, in this case an 1837 fairy tale by Hans Christian Andersen. So much like Andy Serkis and Warner Brothers have their own Jungle Book movie coming out in 2018, Universal has had their own Little Mermaid movie in development for at least the last 6 months, with Chloe Grace Moretz cast in the lead role. What makes this potentially even more confusing for moviegoers though is that Universal's Little Mermaid might not be anything like how you remember the Disney cartoon. In fact, for legal reasons, it's probably going to be drastically different. Because the original Hans Christian Andersen fairy tale is very, very, very different from the Disney movie. It's a tragedy about a mermaid basically making a deal with the devil in order to become human, only for her plan to completely backfire on her, ending in the Little Mermaid committing suicide by stabbing herself in the chest. It's also got a whole bunch of Christian and Scandinavian pagan religious overtones to it that obviously didn't make it into Disney's secular song and dance version of the story, but you get what I'm talking about. It's not what you expect from The Little Mermaid. The Chloe Grace Moretz version is supposedly going to stay more true to that original story while adding its own spin or whatever to it, but we won't know for a while because that movie hasn't even gone into production and it has no release date. But it'll presumably be coming out before or around the same time as the Disney one if Disney can fast track their project. So it should be interesting, and depending on the timing, you might be seeing a lot of little girls coming out of the movie theater bawling, crying because they showed up to see a movie about a singing Jamaican crab and ended up watching a movie about witchcraft and teenage suicide. I cannot wait. I also cannot wait for the next season of Fargo because it's somehow become one of the best shows on television despite initially seeming like it was just gonna be a lame TV adaptation of a beloved Coen Brothers movie. Season 1 with Martin Freeman and Billy Bob Thornton might be the best single season of television ever made, and while season 2 didn't quite reach the same level of quality, it was still damn good. Since Fargo is one of those shows that features a completely different cast and story for each new season, I've been anxiously awaiting any news about what season 3 would be, and now it's been reported that Ewan McGregor will be the show's new star. And not only that, he'll be playing 2 separate characters, brothers Emmett Stussy and Ray Stussy. Their descriptions read, Emmett Stussy is the parking lot king of Minnesota, a handsome, self-made real estate mogul and family man. He sees himself as an American success story. His slightly younger brother, on the other hand, is more of a cautionary tale. Balding and pot-bellied, Ray is the kind of guy who peaked in high school. Now a parole officer, he has a huge chip on his shoulder about the hand he's been dealt, and he blames Emmett for his misfortunes. So he'll be acting his ass off in season 3. It doesn't start shooting for a few more months and it won't premiere until sometime in 2017, so it's still pretty far off. But we do know that unlike season 1, which took place in 2006, and season 2, which took place in 1979, this new season will take place pretty much in present day. But moving on, May is almost over and June is almost here, so you know what that means. New stuff coming to Netflix and old stuff going away. So before June 1st, I recommend that you go and stream Groundhog Day because it's one of the best comedies of all time that I've probably seen a couple dozen times. And before June 18th, you should really go watch Who Framed Roger Rabbit, the amazing, groundbreaking live-action animated combo featuring classic cartoon characters from both Disney and Warner Brothers. And it's got a plot that's a lot darker than you might expect. It's cartoons, but shit gets dark and scary. I remember being very scared by this as a child. As for what's new in June, Jurassic Park and its two sequels, The Lost World and Jurassic Park 3, are coming on June 1st. At least give the first one a watch, even if you've seen it before, because it was a real game changer and it still holds up really well 23 years later. The other two, whatever. If you really like dinosaurs, go for it. Other than that, on June 23rd, the most recent Academy Award Best Picture winner, Spotlight, is coming to Netflix. So watch that and see what all the fuss is about. Spoiler, the fuss is about priests diddling kids, so schedule that one carefully. Moving on to some new trailers from this past week, starting with one from Netflix, who picked up the US distribution rights to the animated French film The Little Prince, or Le Petit Prince, based on the 1943 novel of the same name. This was getting all sorts of positive press and acclaim when it was screening at film festivals last year, but for some reason, Paramount decided to just scrap their entire US theatrical release just a week before it was supposed to come out back in March. They never really explained why, but luckily Netflix was there to swoop in and save the day, like they do so often, because everything I've heard about this is that it's fantastic. It combines the usual CG-style animation that you see these days from Pixar and DreamWorks with some incredible-looking stop-motion paper animation, and the voice casting for the English dub includes Jeff Bridges, Rachel McAdams, Paul Rudd, Marion Cotillard, Benicio del Toro, James Franco, Ricky Gervais, and Paul Giamatti. So this comes out on Netflix on August 5th. I don't know why they're making us wait so long, but hopefully it'll be worth the wait. On the scarier side of things, this week we got a trailer for a movie called Morgan, the debut film directed by Luke Scott, son of Ridley Scott. It stars Kate Mara, and it looks like more of a straight horror thriller version of Ex Machina, focusing on a remote top-secret lab where scientists have created a synthetic life form named Morgan, whose face we never actually get to see in the trailer. Creepy. Morgan looks human, but learns and grows much faster, which is not a good thing when you factor in the fact that Morgan doesn't understand human morality. It's a classic sci-fi horror trope, but it looks like it could work pretty well if the creepiness of this trailer is any indication, although Morgan comes out in theaters this September. The creepiness of that trailer, though, pales in comparison to the creepiness of the trailer for Clown, a horror movie basically designed specifically to exploit your fear of creepy clowns. The plot's simple. It's a classic body horror tale. A loving husband and father puts on a clown costume for his kid's birthday party, but then he discovers that he can't get the suit off, and it's slowly becoming part of him. And his personality slowly begins to change into an evil clown personality. So the story behind how this got made is actually really interesting, maybe more than the movie. So back in 2010, two aspiring filmmakers shot a fake trailer based on their concept for Clown, and their fake trailer, which included the text from the master of horror, Eli Roth, despite zero actual involvement from Eli Roth, started making the rounds online, and Roth eventually saw it, liked it, and got in touch with the filmmakers to help them get the full version of the Clown made. So that worked out. Anyway, Clown comes out June 17th on demand and in select theaters. Only the select ones. Anyway, guys, that's it for News Dump this week. Be sure to come back tomorrow and check out me and Ricky's podcast with actor Rob Kaczynski, who plays Orgrim Doomhammer in the Warcraft movie. He tells us all about the crazy high-tech shit that went into making that movie. Also, check out a new episode of Weekly Weird News all about the world's first porn reality show, and a new episode of Tugs about how video games are cocaine and Blizzard is Pablo Escobar. See you next week.